This is Lab 11 for Chem 1215, spectroscopic analysis of a brass sample. To get started, we need to make a series of standards for our spectrometer. And to do this, I have prepared 5 volumetric flasks and labeled them according to the concentration I want. And I've named them for calibration standards. So CS1, calibration standard 1, calibration standard 2, calibration standard 3, calibration standard 4, calibration standard 5. They will go in order of lowest to highest concentration. So CS1 will be my lowest concentration. CS5 will be my highest concentration. They'll range from 0.2 at CS1 to 1.0 milligrams per milliliter at CS5. Now I've also gone ahead and set up a burette, which I have filled, which I have primed with some of my stock solution, which is a copper stock solution of 10.0003 milligrams per milliliters. And that is what we will use to generate our calibration standards. So before we get started, we want to make sure our burette is at a convenient volume for us to make our readings from. So I'm going to go for the 40 milliliters. And so right now we're just above that, so I'm going to drain off some of this into a waste speaker. All right. Now our burette is right at 40 ml, and we can start dispensing our stock solution to our volumetric flasks. So to start out, we'll go with the highest concentration and work our way down to the lowest for dispensing our stock solution. So for CS5, we want it to be 1.0 milligrams per milliliter because it's at the top end of our calibration range. So we have a 25 milliliter volumetric flask. And after doing the calculation with C1V1 equals C2V2, we find that we need 2.5 milliliters of our stock solution. So I'm going to dispense from the 40 milliliter mark to the 42.5 milliliter mark on the burette. All right, just checking this real quick. Looks like we need just a little bit more. And that's about 42.5 on the nose. We'll repeat this for each of our volumetric flasks using an appropriate amount of stock solution. And then we'll come back and dilute this to volume. All right, so we've dispensed all the stock solution we need to each of the volumetric flasks for our calibration standards. Now we're going to start bringing them up to volume. Our first step is to give them about 10 milliliters each of distilled water. So we'll come back once I've done that. Okay, so we've brought we've added about 10 milliliters of distilled water to each of these. You can already see that the colors on them are all quite different. They're getting lighter and lighter. So let's go ahead and we'll start complexing that copper with some concentrated ammonia. All right, we're going to bring this up to, we're going to do this 1 milliliter of concentrated ammonia at a time. And once this stops getting any darker blue is when we will stop. So here's the first mill. You see it gets a really, really dark blue. I'm going to turn this around so it's a little easier to see. Let's do another milliliter. Okay. So that doesn't look like it's getting any darker to me. So for each of our calibration standards, since this had the most copper, it was calibration standard 5. We know that it should take no more than 1 milliliter of concentrated ammonia to get all the copper complexed. So I will finish this off with 3 milliliters, so 2 more milliliters of concentrated ammonia, just to make sure that we are completely complex. So there's 1, 2. Okay. Now the rest of this we will bring to volume using only distilled water. And we'll zoom in on this for you so you can see this a little clearer. All right, so we've got the camera down level with the graduation mark right here. And we're going to go ahead and add distilled water until our meniscus touches that line. Just like that. And all we do now is rinse and repeat with the rest of these calibration standards, and then we're ready to go to the spectrometer to get our calibration curve. All right, so we finished preparing each of these calibration standards, and it's kind of hard to see with the distortion on my camera here, but they are all level with the meniscus is just touching the bottom of the meniscus is just touching the tick mark. Now you can also see a little bit better now the gradient from most concentrated to least concentrated. The color slowly gets less and less pronounced, gets paler blue as it gets more dilute. So now we're ready to take this over to the spectrometer and get our calibration readings.